Chapter 5. Return to France. Return to Faith, 1680s. The harbor at La Rochelle was crowded with sails when Judith stepped once more onto French soil. More than 30 years had passed since she had left St. Jean d'Angely as a young woman with nothing but a trunk and a dream. Now she returned with lines at the corners of her eyes, with the weight of widowhood and banishment heavy on her shoulders, and with children scattered between the parishes of New France. The streets of her hometown felt smaller, narrower, as though they had not grown while she had lived lifetimes across the sea. Yet to Judith, they were also familiar stone walls that had stood while her own world shifted. The smell of bread baking in the market square, the bells of the parish church tolling just as they had in her girlhood. Neighbors looked at her curiously. Some remembered the young girl who had sailed for Canada, one of those filles à marier. Others saw only a woman returned alone, her life written in rumors. Few could guess the battles she had fought in Montreal, the courts she had faced, the children she had birthed and buried. But Judith carried herself with dignity. She always had. It was here in St. Jean d'Angely that she wed again, this time to Louis Gillet, Sieur de la Plante. In February 1686, the notary's record is simple. A civil contract on the 6th, a church wedding on the 12th. Judith was 53 years old, a woman no longer in the bloom of youth, yet still determined to anchor herself in companionship and respectability. Louis was not a man of great wealth, but he offered her something she had not known in years: stability for a time. Judith lived quietly, her days no longer filled with creditors pounding at her door or priests condemning her choices. In the parish church, she prayed again with the steadiness of someone who had wrestled with faith and found at last a measure of peace. And yet, she was restless. At night, that same bed she had refused to sell in Montreal, shipped back across the ocean as though it were her truest companion, Judith dreamed of the wide St. Lawrence, of the forests beyond Trois-Rivières, of her children who still lived in New France. She thought of Pierre, Francois, Louise, Jean-Baptiste, Marie-Marguerite, and her youngest, Jean-Baptiste Thérèse, scattered across the colony. Her body was in France, but her bloodline was in Canada.